And our lead molecule in the psychedelic portfolio, BMB-202, is, at least to our knowledge, the most selective and potent 5-HT2A agonist currently in the market.
BioNeex is the first biopharma R&D open exchange platform for licensing and co-development partnerships of drug candidates. We are working closely with biopharmaceutical companies that are actively seeking preclinical and clinical stage drug candidates for in-licensing and co-development partnerships to expand their R&D pipelines. If you are a development stage biotech company and are looking for licensing and co-development partners for your drug candidates, then list them for free on BioNeex and get contacted directly by these biopharmaceutical companies. We are already working with many partners. Would you like to learn more about BioNeex? Feel free to get in touch with us. We look forward to working with you.
Hello everyone, today we are back again with BioNeex interview. Our guest is today Director and Chief Scientific Officer of BrightMind Biosciences, Dr. Jan Torleif Pedersen. Hello, Dr. Pedersen. It's nice to having you today in BioNeex interview.
Nice to be here, Sambat. Thank you.
BrightMind Biosciences is a Nasdaq-listed biotech company dedicated to developing next-generation serotonin therapeutics to improve the lives of patients with severe brain diseases. Dr. Pedersen, please tell us about BrightMind Biosciences and what the company is about and what happened since our last interview with Gideon Shapiro in 2021. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Sambat. So it's about a year ago you spoke to BrightMinds last, and a lot of things have happened here. BrightMinds is a drug development company that holds a very rich portfolio of next generation proprietary serotonin drugs. Specifically, we are developing very highly selective agonists against the 5-HT2A and 2C receptors. And in the past year, BrightMinds has really developed from an early stage discovery company to a full-blown drug development organization. So we do now have all the necessary development capabilities in place, we believe, in order to submit an IND in the US. BrightMinds has a lead asset, BMB-101, which is a highly selective 5-HT2C agonist in phase 1 in man. And what's also happened in the past year is that we have progressed our psychedelics portfolio forward and expect to take our first next generation psychedelic into man in 2023. At the same time, BrightMinds has hired really some very seasoned drug development capacities in the neuroscience space. We've hired Mark Smith as our new Chief Medical Officer, who has a long experience. He's a psychiatrist, has a long experience in drug development in the psychiatry space. And we've added David Weiner, really a seasoned neurologist, as a board director. And then I have myself joined the board of directors and taken on the CSO role at BrightMinds. We've also built a really top-notch scientific advisory board of world leaders in the serotonin field to help us really develop the best translational and indication platform for our assets.
Thank you, Dr. Pedersen. And also a big advancement since 2021. You also got listed on NASDAQ
Yes.
Could you then tell us about the company's portfolio, how it looks like at the moment?
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, Bright Minds has a very rich portfolio of 5-HT2 agonists. Our lead program, BMB-101, is a non-psychedelic, highly selective, and what we would call a G-protein biased agonist at the 5-HT2C receptor, which is being developed for seizure management in epilepsy, in particular Dravet syndrome, which is a genetic form of epilepsy. Within our psychedelic portfolio, that is our portfolio of 5-HT2A agonists, our lead asset is BMB-202, which is a highly selective and, to our knowledge, probably the most selective or only true selective short-acting 5-HT2A agonist, which is designed to deliver a very short and intense psychedelic experience. And we aim to put this molecule into man later in 2023, with a lead indication for that molecule being major depressive disorder. Within the psychedelic portfolio, we also have a milder version of psilocybin, also a molecule that has a limited potential for eliciting a psychedelic effect, while still activating the 5-HT2A receptor.
And can you tell us about collaborations? What type of collaborations are you looking at the moment for?
That's a very good question. So at the moment, we are actually very actively looking for collaborators, and we're currently entertaining or looking at any type of collaboration that will be able to help Bright Minds advance our very exciting portfolio of 5-HT2A agonists. The fact is that we have more assets that we can develop ourselves, and we believe that there is great potential in the Bright Minds portfolio. So if I should say something about our preferred partner, that would, of course, be a major pharma company with experience in drug development, particularly within neurology and neuropsychiatry. But other collaborations, such as co-development deals, are also of great interest to us.
And what would be the ideal companies for you? Mid-sized, large, big pharma companies? Maybe you could tell us about that more.
Yeah, so I think both large and mid-size companies are of interest to us at the moment.
Thank you. And can you please help us to understand the key differentiations between your assets in the pipeline and the peers?
Yeah, so at Bright Minds, we don't necessarily see ourselves as a psychedelics company, but rather as a company that's seeking to develop next generation serotonin drugs. So what sets Bright Minds apart from its competitors is really the approach that we've taken towards drug discovery. We've taken a rational structure-based drug design approach towards development of highly selective compounds at the 5-HT2 receptors. We've designed those compounds with very specific pharmacokinetic and pharmacodynamic properties in order to allow an optimal dosing of those molecules. So the result of that approach is that our lead molecule, BMB-101, is, we believe, the best-in-class 5-HT2C agonist, and our lead molecule in the psychedelic portfolio, BMB-202, is, at least to our knowledge, the most selective and potent 5-HT2A agonist currently in the market.
And can you please help to understand how you see this new generation of compounds fitting in the commercial landscape?
Yeah, so BMB-101, our lead asset, is currently being developed for the treatment of seizures in epilepsy, in particular Dravet syndrome. But that particular treatment principle is not directly linked to the genetic deficit that's associated with Dravet syndrome. So as a seizure management principle, it's a principle that will have broad application in seizure disorders. So generalized seizures is also an area where that molecule will be efficacious. We're also looking at that molecule as a potential treatment for substance use disorders and also various types of psychosis, particularly psychosis and agitation management in Alzheimer's disease patients. Within the psychedelic portfolio, BMB-202 is our lead molecule. And we believe that such a molecule may have great potential for the treatment of major depressive disorder. But psychedelics in general have demonstrated a great promise in a range of psychiatric disorders, such as PTSD, bipolar disorder, and so on. Then there are other Bright Minds assets with mixed receptor profiles at 2A and 2C, and we believe that those may have great potential in pain management and substance use disorders and even weight management and obesity.
Yeah, it's pretty broad coverage, I think, in different type of indications, and it's a big market definitely for partnership perspective that will be very, I think, interesting for them, value proposition. And I think another question would be very interesting for potential partners, your IP status of the assets. Can you help us to understand that as well?
Yeah, that of course that's also a very good question. As you may know, in the psychedelics field, it's a minefield for intellectual property. So what we have tried to do at Bright Minds is to stay clear of the heavily patented pharmacophore classes in order to be able to obtain some relatively clear IP. So for our lead asset, BMB-101, we have a granted patent that covers that molecule, and we have PCT applications that cover our different pharmacophore classes within the psychedelics portfolio. In particular for BMB-202, it's covered by a PCT application that's in advanced stages of prosecution. So we believe that we have a very solid footing in our IP.
And can you tell us about geography, where it's covered?
Yeah, so these are PCT applications. So these are world-wide patents.
Very good. Perfect. So we are now approaching to the end of our interview, Dr. Pedersen, and I always like to ask our interviewees about the vision. So what is in this case Bright Mind Biosciences' vision for psychedelic therapy?
Yeah. So so this is an interesting question. So at Bright Minds, we really tried to keep an open bright mind, and that is that we have tried to pursue three different hypotheses for better and more manageable psychedelic therapy. And if we look at what these sort of issues have been with the existing therapies or with therapies with natural compounds such as psilocin, LSD, mescaline, ibogaine, and so on, then all of those compounds are associated with relatively strong 5-HT2B activity. which leads to a cardiac liability, in particular when thinking about chronic treatments. Then there is an abuse potential due to the very broad pharmacology, in particular at the dopamine receptor and at serotonin transporters. I think the third point I would like to make is that which is very important for actually bringing a psychedelic therapy to the market, is that for the natural compounds, the psychedelic episode is very unpredictable, and long psychedelic episodes which require extensive psychiatrist companionship in the treatment setting. So what we've done to sort of try and overcome that and to turn psychedelic therapies into a pharmacotherapy is, number one, is to really develop a molecule which is short-acting, potent, and selective at the 5-HT2 agonist. So that's what we call a Cmax-driven compound, which gives you a short, sharp shock in some sense, but a short psychedelic episode and predictable episode. That means that a psychiatrist, when I say short, I say something on the order of what you would see for DMT, half an hour to 2 hours, but it would allow a psychiatrist to have 3, 4, or 5 patients during a day, which will make a big difference to the therapies that you have today. The other way we've gone is actually to make less potent versions of natural compounds, so milder forms of psilocybin, and that sort of pursues the microdosing principle. That is something that gives you a very mild dissociative experience, and our compound BMB-201 is such a molecule. And then the third hypothesis that we've really been pursuing is, can you actually make molecules which are devoid of psychedelic effects? These are termed, or by some people termed, psychoplastogens. So molecules that can induce sort of a neuroplasticity that is also give the sort of antidepressant effect that's seen with psychedelics without the psychedelic episode. And we've been able to successfully develop compounds that fulfill all of those 3 principles. And which of those will be successful, I think, remains to be demonstrated.
Yeah, that's really a great, I think, success in terms of, as you mentioned, with the current therapies available, the difference that the Bright Mind Biosciences compounds can provide to the patients. And I think there will be great benefit from the pharmaceutical companies side as well, entering into partnership with the company. I would always, give maybe 30 second chance to our CEOs or chief scientific officers that we are interviewing to ask, is there anything else that we didn't really discuss or didn't touch that you would like to address, Dr. Pedersen?
No, I think that we got very much around the status of the company, where we're at, and what our vision is going forward, and what types of partnerships we will be looking at. We will really be entertaining any type of partnership, also within sort of other indication types that I did not mention today. But I think that your questions covered pretty much where we are at today.
Great, thank you so much. I want to also remind our audience that Bright Mind Biosciences compounds are listed on BioNeex, so please welcome to review and check their drug candidates on BioNeex and get directly in touch with Dr. Pedersen and with his team. And want to remind again that today our guest was this Chief Scientific Officer and Director of Bright Mind Biosciences, Dr. Jan Torleif Pedersen, and Brightmind Biosciences is a Nasdaq-listed biotech company dedicated to develop next-generation serotonin therapeutics to improve patients' lives with severe brain diseases. Thank you. Thank you so much, and we will come again with another BioNeex interview.
Thank you.